And we then safely say that INEC made a choice for the presidential not to upload the results.
No, I don't
or
think
to
so.
start uploading when they did.
I don't think so. I think there were some major hitches, glitches, you name it. These things happen. I mean, let's give it to ourselves. A lot of it is going to be proven in courts, but we've spoken with a number of tech experts who say, look, some of these things could happen at any time. In fact, I mean, I don't know how many millions of cyber attempts at hacking the servers that the federal government or various agencies, MDAs of government have said, these things happen to us. So these things are possible. Is it because of the hacks? Is it because some people were trying to hack into the system, remove one result and put another one? What exactly is it? I don't know that yet. I mean, I'm hoping that the coming days, weeks, and months will say. But for me, what's the most important thing, Alero, is we have to have a decisive conversation about our electoral process. All of the people who look, there is no election, no general election we've had that we've not had issues and complaints. None. Let's.
And I don't think we shall ever have any, even if the time comes when we're voting on our telephones from our houses and stuff like that, there will still be complaints.
Because even in the 200-year-old election democracy, they still have their own.
And we are only
in India, they still have theirs as well. So those things will always happen. But what is important, Alero, is we should make sure we do not allow politicians to manipulate us against ourselves. For me, that's an extremely important thing that we have to give attention to. Let's not allow politicians to say, okay, this is the card to play this time. No, change that card. Okay, this is the one. At the end of the day, where people are being used by like cannon fodders in their own game.
But the thing is, look, we've always said on this program and on many other programs that young people should not allow themselves to be used by politicians. We saw faces of people and the rhetorics that were put out during the elections. We saw their faces. We know who they are. And they were playing his master's voice, so to speak. They were running somebody's errand. We tell them not to allow themselves to be used, but only God knows how much they're offered, that they come and expose themselves like that. Suppose some policeman had picked up a gun and shot them when they were saying those things that they said at the polling booths. They would have been dead, and the politician would have smiled on and moved on with his life.
There will be 1 minute silence.
Okay, 1 minute silence.
Yeah.
Big deal.
I think, you know, and this thing happened all over the nation.
It did.
Irrespective of region or religion. It happened all over the world. That needs to be put out there.
All over the country.
All over, beg your pardon, all over the country.
Yeah.
We saw videos from everywhere. And then one of the privileges of doing this job, which you all know, is we have so much information that we literally have to sift what to put out.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time, we are not able to put out more than 10–20% of information that come in.
Yeah.
Because some of them, I mean, it's like you go to the market to cook, to buy, you know, condiments and all of those things. You have to literally choose, okay, this one goes in, this one is for another time and all those things. That's the way it happens, you know, in the news. So we have to play that responsibility role. What is important? There is something you referenced from the first national anthem of the country.
Yes. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. That needs to be brought back into our national life. We are one country. Maybe we're not a nation, but we are one country. Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, Robo, Shekiri, Calabar, Efik. We are all one people. We have managed to live together this long. So what is our problem now?
You know, this thing, Alero, didn't start with this election cycle. Didn't start with the previous election.
No, it didn't, but it was marked this time.
Yes. And it was like the vice president was looking into some crystal ball. When in 2019, he said, we need to find a way to mend these fault lines. Oh, he was called out by so many people at the time. His name was.
I'm sure he's now saying, "I told you so."
I mean, unfortunately, he may say it in private. He's not going to come and say it in public. But yes, you're right. These things have been with us since the First Republic. And we have some who have used it to advantage, have used it to their own advantage.
Yeah.
Those people, there are those of us, I mean, during the, I think it was, during those Amotekun noise period when the governor of Oyo State, had to put out let some people just go out and try to mend fences. They saw a Hausa man who said that he's been in this particular area, I don't know, remote part of Oyo State, for more than 40 years. And you're now saying he should leave. To where?
To go where? Good question.
And then there are people also like that, Yorubas in Sabongeri in Kano. You say, go to your fatherland.
There's Hausa quarter in Sapele.
So where do you say, where do they want to go?
Oh.
Where? So we need to, those tribes and tongue may differ. I think we need to stand in brotherhood indeed. Those fault lines need to be brought back together. And I think it's important for whoever is in any level of authority or control now, at the federal, state, or local government level, recognize that if we do not take deliberate action to mend fences, we're literally setting ourselves up.
We have to, and we must also recall that when the Igbos wanted to go away and form Biafra, a war was fought for 3 years to bring them back into the fold. War isn't anything that anybody wants to go through. Our country went through those sad years when many people were killed, many lives lost, just to bring them back into the fold, which shows just how important this brotherhood is to Nigeria. We must glue it together, whatever kind of glue, whether it's araldite or whatever, we need to glue our country back together.
Not just glue, weld, and whatever.
Smoothen, sandpaper it.
So that you do not see any difference between the joints anymore.
Yes.
It's very important for us to recognize that this Nigeria, irrespective of who or where you are from.
Quickly, before we go to the menu, Central Bank has ordered commercial banks to open on Saturdays and Sundays.
Today, Abby?
In Beni.
And tomorrow.
Yes. It hasn't said for how long.
Okay.
But the question you asked me earlier was, is Central Bank going to pay their salary?
Is the Central Bank going to give the banks some money to say, okay, because we've asked your staff to, because even these bankers themselves don't have cash to go to work. They don't have cash to pay for...
No, wait. What are they going to do at work on Saturday and Sunday? To give money they don't have?
Make director say we will not talk everything finished, but...
Okay, all right.
But they themselves have to go to work in
using public transport
to pay with cash, which they themselves may or may not have. Anyway.
Okay.
Is it because
elections 2023?
The CBN is afraid that the NLC strike of Wednesday.
Elections 2023, bridging the divide. Yes. There you go.
Yes, we have to talk about that one. Okay, so I've shut up. Nigeria's economy needs resets. Yes, we'll be talking about that.
Press the button.
Yes, we have to. So how do we do that? We'll find out later on.
And then Wednesday, 22nd, was World Water Day. We're going to focus on that.
Lifestyle. What kind of music do who listen to? Why do some old people listen to, what's that? Classical music. And some prefer to listen to Dan Mariah Jos.
Classical music?
Yes.
It's medicine. I can tell you that. And then we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment.
Which one of them?
He's a he.
And clue, he has a trending song out.
You want to sing it?
No.
I know that you couldn't sing to save your life.
I can hum, and I'm best at singing in the bathroom. Yeah. So we're back right after now. While she's laughing at me, please laugh with me. Take a short break. We'll be right back to begin the show.
stand for Nigeria.
I believe, Nigeria.
Wishing on a star to take me where you are. Wishing on a dream, no matter how far it seems. Everywhere I go, to see the love and flow, in unity to stand for, from south up to the north. Only when there's love can there be no cause to fight. Only when we fear God can everything be alright. One nation, raise people, green, white, green. You're my brother, take my hand. One nation, raise people, and everything will be
Stand for the truth. Without the problem, come from the roots. Pick up yourself now, pick up who you. Anybody causing problem now, make them kaput. Stand together now, people no fighting. One love is what we are preaching. Let's upgrade our understanding and stop this nonsense, political doubting. That's potential, demand capacity, let's walk the walk, let's show the world. Say our head, yeah. Let's stand up for something, fight for the right thing, for whatever, moving for the future. Cause I believe in this entity called Nigeria. I believe in
peace and unity. One Nigeria, one nation, raise people, green, white, green. One nation, raise people. We should live like sister and brother. Find a way to love each other. One love, one life, one Nigeria. If we stand as one Nigeria, unity will only make us stronger. Don't let them divide us any longer. Cause there are no bad tribes, only bad people. No north and south, good versus evil. Only when there's love can there be no cause to fight. Only when we fear God can everything be alright. One nation, great people, green, white, green. 'Cause at the end of the day, only one ever say, great people,
Yes, thank you for joining us this morning. The just concluded general elections have revealed the sharp ethnic, religious, and demographic fault in the country. I mean, this is a sad observation, but unfortunately it is the truth. And this all happened in spite of the signing of the peace accord by candidates and their political parties. The UN, in its assessment, says that since Nigeria is standing at a crossroads, engagement in genuine dialogue involving all the stakeholders would be pivotal in calling for accountability to restore confidence in the governance process. This is what we're going to look at this morning, and we have a heavy-duty panel to help us look at this. Because, I mean, I have a big issue with how did we get here. It's my pleasure indeed to welcome Chief Edwin Igbokwe, Pioneer General Manager, The Punch newspapers. Good morning.
Thank you.
Joining us via Zoom from Uyo is the founder of Nigeria First, Ezekiel Ayo Etuk. Yeah, Etuk, sorry. Hi, Ezekiel. Morning.
Thanks for having me. Yes, thank you.
And Dr. Shuaibu Mohammed of the Department of Political Science and International Studies, Ahmadu Bello University, joins us from Zaria. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Ma. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Good. Chief Ibukwe.
Yes, ma'am.
The elections have come and gone, and we noticed all these things that I listed. I'm going to be very direct with my question. How do you think we got here?
I wouldn't say I'll be able to answer that. But I can tell you that it is a departure from what used to happen before. I'm not a politician, but I have been in politics, supporting politicians. The only time I attempted was when Shego Shoba told me, because I was General Secretary of Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, and he was president. So he said, Edwin, I'm going to Ogun State to be the governor. Go to Anambra and be the governor. I say, oh yes, he's alive. I say, no, I don't like politics. You know, I was still younger than, because I joined Punch when I was 20. I joined Punch when I was 21 as in the accounts department, then group finance controller 3 years later, and then pioneer general manager at the age of 26. And that was when I got married to my wife, late Christia Senibukwe, who was 19 years then. So when Shego said that, I said, no, I won't get. But you see, fortunately, every person is a politician. Everybody is a politician. That's what I come to realize.
Active or otherwise?
Active or otherwise. Thank you. Because any achievement a nation makes is through politics. Be it, I still consider military as politics. Let's face it. But we're talking about democracy. So during Abiola's time, I can rightly say that when Abiola was signing the press release, to confirm that he has made Kingibe his deputy or vice, we were only 5. Myself, my wife, Adedibu, Olufalaye, but I was there before they came in. Adedibu was inside there in the house, upstairs. My wife told me this is what the situation is. So I flew down because I went to Port Harcourt to go and arrange for some, how do I put it, media debate with then a newspaper that was printing in full colors. Let's keep it that way. Then my wife said, the result has come. Kingibe is the deputy. So I flew down. When I flew down, we went to his house. He was inside the room. Adedibu was seated there. There's this guy. I wasn't a politician. Abiola had been a father, a family friend to us, to the Bokwes, through Olua Bodering, who happens to be my mentor. Then they said, Kingibe is now the deputy. Then Father came in and said, Edwin, where is Presido? Because we call him Presido. Says inside. And he went and knocked. He came out and he told us, without looking at us, the reason why Kingibe became the vice. So we were there discussing. There are certain things I wouldn't like to mention here. But by the time it was done, we entered the dining upstairs before Nsikak Essien, who happened to be the editor of Concord, brought in the release saying that he has now accepted this person as the vice. That was the beginning of my getting into politics, because I was dragged into it. So we went on, then people continued coming and the whole place was filled. But by the time he signed it, I was the one that said, oh, Presido, you have not put dates. Then he added it by hand.
So it doesn't look like we're punctuating this conversation.
Yes.
I see that in all of these conversations so far, it's not been relegated to just people from a particular segment of the country.
Yes.
It seems everyone has been there.
Which is why I think he's telling this story.
Exactly. So there is a South-South
You
person.
are Southeast?
Yes.
Is it Yoruba people?
Nsikak,
It's South.
Abiola,
Yes.
Kingibe,
Yes.
Adedibu.
Yes.
So that bond was there all the while.
Yes. Was
So-
there all the while?
Okay,
Now,
just a second, so that we can open the conversation with other people.
Yeah.
Dr. Mohammed, if you can hear us, one of the things I want to find out, maybe I'll let Alera ask that question again. How did we get here to the place where we're segregating ourselves ethnically, religiously, demographically? We are one nation, one country, one Nigeria, yet we're pixating the country like we are some pizza.
Thank you. Hope you can hear me clearly.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, good. Let me start by making some clarifications. It is good for Nigerians to understand what politics itself is all about and what democracy, that's a liberal type of democracy we are practicing, what should it be. For instance, when you take politics, it simply means authoritative allocation of values in the society. Authoritative, meaning legal allocation of values. Now, those people in authority must be elected by people. And it is a responsibility to allocate values which can be economic resources, which can be political appointment for the development of a country. That's what politics should be. Then democracy simply means popular participation of people into their governmental affairs, either directly or indirectly. Directly, it can be, person contesting for an election, winning election in order to rule, while indirectly, the electorate go out and elect. Now, historically, Nigerian democracy, or the liberal type of democracy we are practicing, was imposed on us. Even though, let me start with the positives. In 1922, when Clifford Constitution, came into being, it introduced elective principles, meaning Nigerians now can be elected and participate in their governmental affairs, where we had 3 representatives from Lagos and 1 from Calabar. The most interesting thing is that in 1946, that's when there was proposal for amendment of the Clifford Constitution. It was the representative of Calabar that seconded the motion that the northern part of the country should be part of, the governmental affairs of the country. If I could remember I think it was Honorable Okon Offiong. He was very happy that now Nigerians can come together and discuss about their issues. Even though the Constitution came with regionalism, and that's the beginning of this segregation, whereby the country was divided into Eastern region, Western region, and Northern region. And there were a lot of debates in the assembly then.
So just 1 second, Dr. Shaibu.
Yes.
Was that a wrong move by the political class at the time to create those regions? One would have thought that those regional arrangements were more for administrative purposes as opposed to governance.
It was the colonial regime that did the creation. And Nigerians, when you look at it, when the regions were created, those people from the north were not even consulted because they were not part of the assembly then. Only representatives from Lagos and Calabar, they were part of the Legislative Council. Now, it was for colonial administrative convenience, even though it had some negatives on the development of Nigeria, because one region was more than the other 2 regions. And there were a lot of complaints by, the people from the western part and people from the eastern part. Now, the colonial masters felt that for convenience, that should be the best arrangement. Having said that, this issue of divide, as clearly presented by Professor Peter Ake, that this colonialism came with this divide whereby two publics were created. There's what you call civic public and primordial public. Now, the civil public is where the central politics is being played, while the primordial politics, has to do with people coming back to their regions, coming back to their ethnic groups. And this also affected the development of Nigerian state. Again, when you look at the early political parties, with the exception of NCNC, were somehow tribal associations that were later transformed into political parties. Most especially the NPC, Jamia Mutana Arewa, the Action Group by, please don't mind my pronunciation, Egbe Omo Odudua. It was SNC that started as a nationalist party, even though later changed to also regional party. Now, all these dynamics contributed to what we are currently, the divide.
Well, Dr. Mohammed, it's a good background that you have laid for us, and I mean, at least now we have an idea of where all of these things are coming from. And by the way, you didn't do too badly with the pronunciation. We may not be able to give you an award for it, but you didn't do it too badly. Well, Mr. Yetok, you've been listening to this conversation, and you are in politics, and it would seem like a lot of the rhetorics almost always came, first of all, from politicians who try to exploit the frayed, fragile fault lines of the country. Has it always been like that?
Okay, first, thanks for having me, and I want to give a shout out to all Nigerians and then welcome them. I don't know if I can say welcome back yet because we don't seem to have them fully returned. But let me say this. I want to thank the doctor for giving us very intellectual backgrounds, but let me come to a more practical, down-to-earth definition of what we are discussing today. Politics is the door that leads into the room called governance. Governance, by right, should be the management of the resources of the people in the larger interest of the generality of the people. Within that context, service should be the essence for seeking public office. But unfortunately, government has become that instrument of state capture for personal gains. And because the returns on that investment is so much, it is such that it has nothing today to do with service, but everything to do with personal gains. To that extent, therefore, people play dirty. People go out of their way to seek what they call strategic advantage. It is within the context of strategic advantage that you go to somebody and say, you know what, that guy is a Muslim. This didn't start today. In the Bible, there was a lady that was just trying to take hold of a young guy, called Joseph. And somewhere along the line, Joseph said, no, I can't do this, not right. On one occasion, she rushed at Joseph, and Joseph had to abandon his dress and flee. And guess what she said? She called the people and said, can you see what this silly Israelite is doing to us? Us, not her. So with that, she was like, these people are doing this to us, thereby evoking the sentiment of the people, the generality of the people. So it's always about taking strategic advantage for your personal gain. He's a Muslim and we are Christians. We can't be isolated. You don't say what your interest is, but you are taking advantage of the vulnerability of the people. They are Northerners and we are Southerners. You know, they are from the East, they are Igbos, and we are Yorubas. We say those things to gain strategic advantage for our personal gain. And unfortunately, the gullible public is not thinking the way they should. Because you ask yourself, I'll give you a very, very good example. When, I don't know, let me leave that for now. But the important thing is that that guy that was from your area, okay, let me give a general example. Look at NDDC. When former President Jonathan was the president, and then came the immediate or the current president, when was NDDC better funded? Under President Jonathan or under our current president? To the best of my knowledge, NDDC is better funded during the tenure of our current president. Secondly, look at in Akwa Ibom State. When my Oga Obongata was the governor, he had no road to his place. Akpabio came and did the road to his place. When Akpabio was the governor, I was almost irrelevant as an Anang person. But when my Oga Atta was the governor, things went well for me. People don't think in terms of the returns on the person that is on the office. Now, what makes you think that because Ashiwaju is a Yoruba man, or because Peter Obi is an Igbo man, or because Atiku is a Hausa man or Fulani man, that you are going to be better off? We need to be able to bring that conversation to a point where we look in terms of, number one, the gains of the office, and make service the essence for seeking public office. For as long as we do not conquer that and make public office a state capture instrument, for so long will people look for strategic advantages, and they will exploit our fault lines. You know, we are Christians, you know, we are Muslims, you know, we are Northerners, you know, we are Igbos, you know, we are. They never say this in your own interest, but for their own personal
Ezekiel, just a moment. Interestingly, Chief Igbokwe started with the Abiola example. Abiola, a Yoruba man, his vice, a Hausa man. And if you think back, I don't think that the fact that it was a Muslim ticket was discussed in any kind of big measure.
Maybe we should ask Chief
at that time. And people went out overwhelmingly to vote for that alliance, not minding whether they were Hausa, Yoruba, or whether they were Muslim, or whatever. Nigerians trooped out and voted for them.
Question. You know, after the military, we sought a kind of emancipation. Within the context of emancipation, we look for whosoever is like the coach of the Nigerian football team. We don't care where you come from. All we care is, are you competent to get us to the World Cup? Are you competent to get us to win? The moment we bring our mentality to capacity to deliver personal dividends, we will make progress. That's what happened at the time of Abiola. Everybody saw MKO as this liberal Nigerian who was going to work for us and make life better. So we never thought in terms of, you know, where he comes from or what religion that they exhibited. We didn't care that. It's like the national team. There was a time we played Cameroon, I remember very well, and about 8 of the players on the pitch were from the southeast. About 8 of the 11 players were from the southeast. We couldn't care less. We were all happy. The Hausas, the Yorubas, the Igbos were happy that we won that match, and we celebrated together and danced, and we were really happy as a country. So I think that there needs to be a lot of education on our people. And, you know, this is deeper than we have. I've just come out of an election where people are so impoverished. In fact, the evolution is getting worse. It's no longer fault lines now, we are going into other things of impoverishing the people, inducing the people, and taking advantage of their vulnerability. It's becoming more complicated, and we are losing the essence of government and governance. We need to have this public conversation as per what should public office be like and what should be the limitations. Let me just end on this. One of the things I miss, and I really miss in this whole thing, was during this presidential election, there was the candidate of ADC, Mr. Dumebi Kachiko. He came up with what he called the Citizens Bill. And in that Citizens Bill that he proposed, every public officer was to enjoy what the public enjoy. Education, you cannot have private education for your children. Power, you cannot have private power for yourself. Whatever it is that the citizens enjoy, you must enjoy that same, privilege. That will make people in public office to work, even if it's in their own selfish personal interest. Look at our president-elect. He's taking off to London to cool off his feet, or one thing or the other. I don't know if that is the correct thing. Why has he not gone to Obudukatu Ranch to go and cool off his feet? Why London? Why has he not come to Ibno Beach to come and cool off his feet? So until we make public officers to know that where they decide to constitute or to preside over, they must live in that place, work in that place, eat in that place, and suffer whatever is the gains or the pains of that place. Until we have such a mindset, then we will not even make progress.
Well, it's not a surprise, Mr. Anyatok, that the politician in you just had to bring one thing or the other in. But can we just go to the sentiments that we're trying to, bridge here? Well, Chief Igbokwe, I mean, you've listened to all the, conversations that we've had so far. The concern that for me is that a sizable number of young people who go off the handle just by the things that they hear, mostly unresearched by them, or they are unable to research these things, but they hear it, they just go off with it. How do we begin to bring them back home? Alero quoted the first national anthem of Nigeria, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. But it would seem like right now there is mutual suspicion. How do we bring us back to the Nigerian nest?
It is very demoralizing what is happening now. I'll be frank with you. I thought things should have been getting better, but they're getting worse. This morning I was just asking myself, why? I thought in this jet age, so to say, that things would have been different from what used to happen in the past. And where all these things come about, I can't explain.
Now, there are those my apologies. There are those who will say they've always been there.
Yes.
Looking at what happened in the First Republic, that's segued into the military era at the time, and then into the Second Republic, on and on and on. It's just, as you said, the fault lines had always been there. They just seem to be getting wider and being exploited by a specific class of people.
Yes. Mostly selfish people. Self-interest is what, unfortunately, has been playing in Nigerian politics. So it continues advancing. Instead of making... You see, I was saying something before. I did not end it. I'll still come back to what you're saying. The broom that you see today, I can proudly say, I was one of the people that made it. That broom started with PSP. I used to chairman a company, non-executive chairman anyway, because I was still in Point. But Uluonogorua was there as a director, Dr. Esenibok, Dr. Harun Adamu, Masimbo, Victor Amobi, Kana Yesinolo, and that it was called KIP, Corporate Image Planners. It was our office on 79 Allen Avenue that people like the late Jakonde, Izuogu, former MD of Abel Ibeku of Guinness, IREM from Benue, and so many of them. They used to come to our office, take one flat, and they would stay in their meeting till 3 a.m., on Allen. So it was PSP. So by the time SDP came, The thing disappeared. I think another party took it. And that is the same broom we designed for, because they gave us the assignment, design logo for us.
Just to be clear, PSP is the People's Solidarity Party of 1979.
Yes, of Jakonde.
No, that was UPN. No. Jakonde was UPN.
UPN. Sorry, after the UPN, when the PSP came up, it was the broom that started it. And I'm telling you the names of people that used to come for meetings. Does not mean I was politically inclined. But you could see there is that political thing in me which has decided not to leave, but I'm still afraid going into this because of the system that we are operating. Self-interest. And this has widened to tribal sentiments.
What do you think is responsible for that exploitation of self-interest over national interest?
Yes, because the center is very strong. You need to keep a very low center. Let the regions or the states, whatever they have made it now, to be contributing to the. Once you see that there's nothing much you are going to get from there, I think that thing will start winning. That is okay. That's my belief.
Dr. Mohammed, I am from a minority in Nigeria. And when we talk about these cracks and this divide, we mainly talk about Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. And there are 247 others who are left out of this conversation, including my tribe. I'm Shekiri, among the smallest tribes in Nigeria. So when these conversations take place, what do you want people like us to say? Will I wait for a Shekiri person before I have a friend? Will I wait for a Shekiri doctor before I agree to be treated in a hospital? We are so few. Okay, an Igbo man can say to himself, I'll wait for an Igbo doctor, because the Igbos are many. A Hausa man can say, I'll wait for a Hausa doctor. But there are 247 other tribes who cannot afford that luxury. Where does all this conversation leave them?
Thank you. Let me start by correcting you. When you mentioned that Baba Gana Kingibe is a Hausa man, no. Baba Gana Kingibe is a Kanuri man from Borno State. That's during Abiola's regime.
It just so happens, Dr. Mohammed, that for as far as the most Nigerians in the south are concerned, once you cross the river Niger, River Benue,
it's Hausa.
You are Hausa.
That's the mistake most of us are making. And you see, and it's even contributing to the debate of this divide. I want to say this, that for me, in my opinion, what is causing all this has to do with the elites. You know, the elites are manipulating this ethnic divides. And in order to for the minority ethnic groups to have representation, that's the reason why Nigeria is practicing federal system of government, whereby powers are divided between the central government and the states. For instance, maybe you are from River State or from Cross River State. Definitely those small ethnic groups in Rivers and Cross River States will be the ones to lead the state. Even though many of us, are looking at the center, forgetting the state. And believing me, if we should concentrate on the state, we'll achieve a lot of development. Sometimes we forget about our governors. They have the responsibility also of developing the state. But in many cases, many governors could not even pay salaries. Now we have to go back to base, start from there, then before looking at the center. I agree with what the last speaker said. We should find a way of making the center less interesting. People should come back, as the federal system of government enshrined, that the powers, there's what you call concurrent lists, residual list, and exclusive list. Come back to the concurrent list. Education, ask your governor. You know, in terms of education, what are you going to do? What have you done? In terms of health, we should be asking our governors. It is not always that the center will be the one providing for our own development for the services that architect Etok said.
Dr. Mohammed, just one thing, because I know that the clock is ticking thick and fast. What do we begin to tell the young people? Because there are many who are afraid that there are elements drumming, fanning the embers of the discord and beating the drums of war and asking for, protests and all those things. These are the people who are going to sentimentally go out. What do we begin to tell them? From the experiences we have had in the Civil War that my colleague Alera mentioned earlier, the riots that happened in various parts of Nigeria, including the Aba women's riots, the Wete in the southwest. Yeah. What do we tell them? Even in the aftermath of the June 12, annulment that lasted about 5 to 6 years. What do we begin to tell young people now to let them know it's going to be worse if we do not take proactive action now?
Thank you. Let me look at it from two ways, long term and short term. For the short term, really, we need to start a massive awareness campaign, especially to educate our younger ones about the implication of allowing themselves to be manipulated by the elite, the selfish elites. And, we can start from the families. For instance, the media has a lot to play. And also, one dangerous aspect of media is the social media. The Nigerian government really needs to come up with something, maybe a regulatory mechanism. And what is paining me there is what the current politicians are setting up now, that they call it media team. And this media team are young ones going into social media disseminating wrong information, maybe about their oppositions, about other divides. I think Nigerian government need to do something, mostly in terms of regulation of social media. This is very important. And again, also, the elite has to start, should I call it elite revolution or elite transformation? We need to have elites that have Nigeria at heart, not elites that will always, maybe their own target is just to get to that hems of affairs. And if the elites fail to revolutionize themselves or reform themselves, as time goes on, I'm seeing that there's going to be revolution from below. And revolution from below is always dangerous and it can be destructive. It is important that the Nigerian government has to do something about regulating these social media outfits.
Ezekiel, it's been suggested that Nigeria set up a National Cohesion and Integration Commission, which will promote inter-ethnic and inter-religious understanding, like it's in Kenya. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, the very first thing is that there was a line of thought that I initiated which will be foundational to this discussion. And that line of thought is that politics is the reason, state capture is the essence. And for as long as service is not the essence for seeking public office, for so long will politicians go out of their way to seek what is called territorial advantage, strategic advantage. And for so long will they exploit the vulnerability of the people in the sense that I need to support this man so that when he wins, I will be able to gain from him. Now, when you understand that politics is the door and that government is the vehicle that drives all of us, It is the man in government that will set up the policies. It is the man in government that will execute. So whatever I say now to you, if the man in government feels that such cohesion will go against his personal interest and strategic advantage, he will not make it work. And you as an outsider, there's nothing you can do about it. We really need to come, like the doctor said, into this public enlightenment. Now, the conversation, if this conversation was some weeks back, it would have been elect people that think this way, but they have been elected. So we can now start to appeal to the people that have been elected for them to consider the essence of their being there. Chapter 2, section 14, subsection 2b, that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. This issue of fault lines or the divides are instruments in the hands of the politicians. And unless we, tackle it fundamentally, foundationally, then we'll just be having discussions that lead us nowhere. There's something else that Doctor has said again, and I agree with. Let the elite. I think that the biggest problem that we have in Nigeria is the elite are either uninformed or they are docile and complacent. And I wonder why you call yourself an enlightened man and you are comfortable to get into a vehicle that is driven by a partially impaired. There's something fundamentally wrong with you. The elites need to know that politics is no longer a dirty game or their game. Politics is that door that leads to governance, and that governance is that vehicle that we are all involved in. So the time has come when we need to know who the driver of the vehicle is. If we are not electing him, we stay as close as possible to where he is and guide him in our own larger interest. If we allow what is going on to go on, the politicians who know how to be streetwise, they know how to handle it. We the professionals will be the worst for it. That's why people keep telling me, why you get involved in this? Why you sacrifice? It's in my own interest, because one day, one madman will just enter there and say, look, let's have we want to be all traditional from today. We have to tie wrapper, whether you're a banker or not. If you don't tie wrapper, and that will be the law. If you don't agree, you leave Nigeria.
Okay.
So we need to see government as something more serious, more important, than we, the elite, need to come involved. Don't blame the poor man for collecting 1 naira because he's impoverished. Blame yourself. Look at the turnout in the last election. Where were all the people that could not be bought? Where were all the people that were reasonable and could rationalize and tell, this is the person I want, that is the person I don't want? That they could have come in and their votes would have counted and made a difference. Where were they? Instead, they are telling you to go and campaign in the villages. The votes are in the villages. And at the end, 23% of people come to vote because the other 50% that are enlightened and know it would not come out. I think we need to start to have a conversation.
Ezekiel has referred to politics being lucrative, and you also alluded to it when you said the center was too powerful.
That's right.
My issue now is, if that is going to change, it is these same politicians who are going to make the law to change it. I mean, do you see them ever doing that? Reduce the power at the center and devolve power to the states or whatever? Or making politics not so attractive, so that only those who are really ready to serve present themselves?
You see, I don't see it possible because of that self-interest. But if we start with our lawmakers and get the right people to lead, at least it could be the beginning. We are talking about who will be Senate President, who will be all that. And they are looking at along the party lines. Why not look for somebody who has done something that benefited the entire nation while he is in that place and make him Senate President? Why must he be, it must be my party because I'm in majority and all that? It will create more divide. Yes. It won't work. Look, I know I don't want to promote anybody, but if you ask me who rightly should be the Senate President, I can tell you.
Oh, you can?
Yes, I can tell you.
Okay.
And it might not be from the majority, somebody who has done something that benefited the entire nation. No question of doing something that has benefited your constituency, because that doesn't work. I mean, we know about someone who has made Nigeria to start gaining what they've been losing for 20 years back, going to almost 1 trillion every year. It was somebody that researched it.
But you know, one of those things, the interesting angle to what you are saying, Chief Igokwe, now is, as Architect Nyaituk said, many of these young people don't even know some of these things that you're talking about.
Yes.
They are moving only on
One
the
direction.
air of what's trending, what is in popular domain. What are people saying? Let me join the bandwagon. Most of the time, the bandwagon is not correct. For instance, there was this rumor that the Chief Justice of Nigeria traveled out to the UK, while our judicial correspondent told me that the man was just observing Ramadan in his house. Right there. Meanwhile, the news is that the man is on a wheelchair somewhere in the UK.
Wrong information.
How do we get young people into this patriotic mindset to the point that we say, whatever is not patriotic, I will not believe it? How do we do that?
I think it can be done by educating them, by informing them, by making sure that they got involved even in the governance.
Do you not feed it to them in their mother's breast milk? Start from there.
Well, then we'll be talking about till kingdom come before we can achieve that. But I think
Because if they're looking at the examples which are being set by us,
yes,
they're not going to go far.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the same thing with you. And this question of tribalism must be cut off.
Yes, you are a Nigerian first.
You're a Nigerian first.
So all those forms that say your state of origin
Should be removed. For instance, my kids were born here. They are Lagosians, as far as I'm concerned, from A to Z.
Irrespective of whatever the name is.
Of course. And look, when you talk about, there were pace setters like Olua Bodere, who knew me from nowhere, an Igbo guy, an Igbo boy, and he saw in me and said, look, I want you to stay here and help me. That was his statement. Because he's so destabilized. We need people like that.
Okay. Let's take the final comments of Dr. Mohammed as well. Crucial first steps for be it the president or the state government. 30 seconds. What would be your recommendation?
People have to look at certain qualities before making their choice or choices. This person, is he nationalistic in outlook? Is he the person that has Nigeria at heart? Is he firm? Will he be the person to always accept criticism and change? I think this should be the criteria for choosing our leaders.
Okay. Let me ask you, Mr. Nyaituk, final words, 30 seconds.
I'll tell you this. I want to tell all Nigerians that the drivers have already been chosen. Let us go as close as possible to their ears and not wish, but help. These people did not get in there to help you. Let us help ourselves. Probably for the first time in my life, I will consider getting an appointment. Let us get to the ears, assuming I don't get, because the battle is not yet ended. Let us go to the ears of the people in power, all the good people, all the elites. Please come into getting as close as possible to the drivers and just keep talking and hoping that one day they will hear you and do the right thing. They don't know the right thing to do. Don't assume. They don't know. They just wanted power. Now they have power. Please help them to do the right thing. Don't be complacent.
Okay. Ezekiel Nya-Etuk, founder, Nigeria First, who joined us via Zoom from Uyo. And we also had joining us from Zaria, Dr. Shoaibu Mohammed of the Department of Political Science and International Studies of the Ahmadu Bello University. And in the studio with us in Lagos, we had Chief Edwin Igbokwe, Pioneer General Manager of the Punch newspapers. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming to share your insight with us this morning.
Just to also mention that we expected Dr. Dapo Akinoshun, a senior advocate of Nigeria, to join in this conversation, but the conversation my colleagues had yesterday about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway traffic logjam has kept him locked down. So sincere apologies, Dr. Akinoshun. Certainly, Mr. Akinoshun, certainly one of these days we'll be able to feature you again. But thank you so much.
And remember, you are a Nigerian first before you are Igbo or Yoruba or even Shekiri. Sunrise will be right back.
Thanks for calling Bastion HMO.
Thank you. Now that was my health insurance partner. Yeah, I was just as skeptical as you were about health insurance until I tried Bastion HMO. I got a healthcare plan that's right for me and my family. I have access to top quality healthcare services and facilities. We also get access to over 1,700 hospitals and clinics. Call 0800 Bastion, Bastion Health, the HMO that puts you in control.
Every day, life presents hopes, dreams, and challenges. Challenges that can become successes with a little help. Because a little help can empower you to go from despair to celebration. A little help can keep you going until the race is won. A little help can turn bundles of anxiety into a bundle of joy. And with Glow Data, you get much more than just a little help. You get the biggest data deals in town to make every day glow with small wins and big wins. Dial *777# to select your Glow Data plan.
I know sometimes it be like saying nobody sent you. That's what I like. I care for you, my friend. I did no vex for me. Say I never call you since, but I hope that you are well. I hope your market sell. Every day I pray for you. Make you Baba, God bless you. I never forget you. I gon' forget you. See my shoulder. Make you rest upon me. You know I got you. Now me be your friend indeed. Money don't show now. I don't keep some for you. You know go so far. Cause anything I get now for me and you. Yeah. How are you? My mind, I deem me gone. I cherish you with my life. Don't worry yourself, oh. Everything go day alright. And if anybody try you, those gon' be on sight. See my shoulder, make you rest up on me. You know I got you. Me be your friend indeed. Money don't show now. I don't keep some for you. No go so far, cause anything I get now for me and you, yeah. How are you, my friend? I see you, my brother. How do you do, my friend? See my sister, but sometimes you feel like say, nobody said
Nobody's and you, that's what I did for you, my friend. I know that's hard and cold enough, but you're always on my mind. Oh, I did for you, my friend.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Of course, you know that we're your friends, right? But you know, it's not been a very friendly economy, wouldn't you say? The economy has wobbled amid myriads of unresolved economic challenges and the seeming lack of capacity of the outgoing administration to halt the slide. Seeming underlined. So 2023 elections offered a ray of hope to Nigerians to choose an administration competent enough to reset the economy. Again, the operative word, reset. The issues are a myriad. Debt burden, GDP growth, telecom sector. I mean, that in particular has hit so many people. I mean, it's so easy for you to send WhatsApp messages, send emails, but when it comes to sending money, it's a problem. And we weren't even able to send our votes. Anyway, let's have this conversation this morning around pressing the reset button on Nigeria's economy. We've successfully co-opted Dr. Dakwa Akinoshun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Maybe I'm looking forward. Thank you for joining us in this segment as well. And hope the traffic didn't slow down your economic movements.
Well, it did affect my fueling.
Well, to have this conversation with us, we also have Professor Banji Oyelaro Yinka joining us from Abidjan, Senior Special Advisor on Industrialization to the President of the AFDB. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us this morning. Perhaps a kind of some background from you, first of all, Prof. We see the data. We see all of the information making the rounds. Do you think, as a nation, as a people, we have a clear, unequivocal, unambiguous understanding of the economic challenges before us?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ayo. I think, let me answer by saying I will try to sort of use your phrase of reset. And I begin by sort of, sketching the contour of the structure of our economy, where we are now. I agree with you. Many may not even understand how challenging the situation we are in now. But I'd like to make 2 or 3 points and say, to start with, Nigeria, like most of those who got independence in the 50s, 60s, started as agrarian societies. We all made effort, and I'm saying we, meaning Asia, Africa, all of those who got independence, try to quickly modernize towards what folks call income convergence with those who have gone ahead of us. The process had always been through what we call the structural transformation of the economy. At the heart of all the development instruments, for me, had been the process of industrialization. What are you trying to achieve? You shift away from low-skill, low-productivity economic activities that is characterized by what we call diminishing returns into modern industrial society. Today, when you compare us with those who are comparators, and this is to answer your question now, we are characterized as a low income. Many people say we are middle income, but we are the lower end of the middle income. The middle income country has achieved close to $10,000 GDP per capita. Nigeria has stagnated around 2,000 for almost 40 years, back and forth. So we are trapped in what I call a low income or low income trap. Just like many people speak about the middle income trap. These are countries that made very rapid progress in the beginning and then got stuck. Many of the folk, we also started with Malaysia, Korea, and all of that. All of them raced forward, but they were able to achieve the middle income status of around $8,000, $10,000 per capita. Some got stuck. Korea moved forward. In fact, Korea became a middle income country in 1994 and had become a high income. Nigeria, on the other hand, now we are stuck at what I call low-level equilibrium economic trap, the so-called poverty trap. It is a situation where you remain poor irrespective of what you are doing. We reach an equilibrium situation where all the positive things we do are cancelled by all the negative forces. You know, that's what they call equilibrium, both in physics and in economics. They call it market equilibrium. So we've been stuck. So, and this is the challenge. In order to frame the future, you have to understand where you are coming from. We have been stuck for many, many decades. And I want to propose that those who will frame the new economic reset, we should have a big ambition and set for ourselves a target of 7% growth for a long time in order for us to be able to double our GDP over the next 10 years. When you grow at 7%, you can double your wealth in 10 years. So maybe in 2040 or whatever. The second goal.
Okay. Just a quick one on that. When you say we should set high goals, forgive me, maybe I'm just being a novice and I'm speaking out of ignorance, but the low goals we set, we're struggling with. I have this personal theory that we've been literally living on the fringes of recession every time. It would seem like we are almost always around 1%, 2%, almost never above. So it's easier to fall into depression simply because you were living on the fringes, literally just struggling along. So how do we cross that Rubicon to the extent of what you say now, growing by 7%?
No, your characterization, Ayo, is correct. And, when you've actually, described what I call a low income trap. We are stuck there. We just can't maneuver, and so if like in physics, they say if an object is at rest and you don't apply a very strong force, it's not going to move. That's why I said a vision has to be a forceful vision to move Nigeria out. It's very easy to get stuck in pessimism. And I understand perfectly what you're saying. It's been for so long. The way we've been, we have an economy that is basically subsistence. In fact, the equilibrium is around subsistence. And that's what they describe as a low equilibrium economy. When you are in a stable equilibrium level of per capita, it's close to subsistence requirement. So you can easily fall into depression or recession anytime there's some sort of an external shock. So this is why we have to get out of this trap.
Okay.
In fact, yeah. So, and let me give an example that always comes to my mind. In the 50s, 60s, Korea was exactly where we are. And people were crying for food. Everybody was just crying, we just want to eat, we just want to eat. And the Park Chung-hee, who was the leader of the country then, kept saying, yes, we are going to eat, but my goal is different. We have to become a power, an industrial power. You can read a book, he wrote about a massive book, about 600 pages. And he kept saying, yes, we know we are stuck in this poverty trap. But for us to get out of it, we need a big vision. And that is what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
That we need someone who will carry us to where we never dreamt where we can get to.
Okay, Prof, just 1 second. Let me raise an issue with Mr. Akioshu. First of all, what do you make of this proposition?
You see, you mentioned the fact that we live on the fringes and we have remained on the fringes of recession. And the issue is, how do we raise income levels? One thing is certain, as in Nigeria, we're not earning enough money to reflate our economy. The only way we'll get out of the poverty level is when what we earn as a nation, what we earn as individuals increase. How do we do that? Our major source of income has been the oil. oil has continued to dwindle in what we earn that comes into the national economy.
It's beginning to rise again, isn't it?
Well, you see, over the years, you find that we were producing 2 million barrels per day. We came down to 600,000 at a time. We have more people lifting oil and doing crude business, but what we're getting in return, in results, is lower. The money that comes out of it, what happens to it? What is it used for? Majority of it goes back into fuel subsidy and things like that.
Forgive me, Mr. Okinsho, I just want to ask you, do you think some of the challenges, I mean, you've heard Prof say, we've been stuck for about 40 years. Do you think some of these things could be as a result of laws that are impeding the earnings or policies that are not helpful? Or what I always go to, Alero, please don't laugh, lack of vision.
I think the policies slow us down sometimes, but it's more in the implementation. Many of the policies are designed to make things better. However, when it comes to the implementation of those policies, is where we find the human factor that seems to drive it down. Now, if there is a law that says, I think it's under the EFCC Act that has been said, that you should come and justify the source of your wealth, rather than them investigating that. That has had several efforts to pass through. It has been stalled. What if I can come to you and ask that, I'm not saying you stole, but justify your wealth. How did you make this money? And you cannot account for it. I will take you to court. Is the judiciary sufficiently empowered to avoid it becoming compromised in those kind of investigations? It will take also, whoever is going to do this has to be a holistic thing. Are you enabling the police in a way that they cannot be bribed? Do we lift up the level of the police? And I think it will start from reforming the administration of justice. If the policeman is well paid and he can resist being compromised, if you take the matter to the court, you're asking, the first time I got involved in a matter of this nature, we were fighting for the governorship of a state. And the man who was fighting told us, oh, don't worry about this case. I don't have money to pay you now. But as soon as I become governor, I'll be able to pay you. And the question was, are you going to be paying for your personal bills from the government coffers? So we told the man, no, if you cannot pay us now, then you should not become governor, because this man is only going there to steal.
Exactly.
However, it seemed like a reasonable proposition to him that every month I'm going to be getting about 50 billion in revenues from the federation account. I can pay you easily. And until we get to a situation where the man who's going there is not going there with the mindset I'm going to take, the judiciary is going to sit on it. Hey, this man is going to get 50 billion every month. What does it cost him to pay a judicial officer who will not get $1 billion in his lifetime salary?
Oh, wow. Well, Prof, it will seem like Mr. Akosho is taking us to the part where, on the one hand, is a role of policies, on the other hand, is the role of implementation. So when you say that there is a simple solution,
the civil service,
we agree. Don't go there yet. We agree that we have a challenge on our hands and all of that. What has stalled us until now? Is it the policies or the people who implement the policies?
I think when you make policy errors, you can correct them. If the theory behind the policy is wrong, you can reset. Because we are talking about reset. And if you correct policy and you don't also put in place the right things to implement, particularly the skills, the management, the bureaucracy behind it, this is, I believe, where we have missed it. The institutions to push forward an agenda has to be transparent, open, accountable. And that's what I think my colleague is talking about. When you do not have accountable system, When someone does things and you budget this 50 billion he's talking about, and there's no outcome, and nobody asks questions, the next person is emboldened to even do worse. So I think it's all combined together. First, the theory has to be right, the policy has to be right, and the implementation has to be open, transparent, and accountable to the people.
Well, Prof, you wrote a book, was it 2016 or 2019? My apologies for butting in, about moving Nigeria from consumption to production. This book, I think, dates back 2016 or 2019. I'm not particularly
2016,
sure.
Yeah, 2016.
Now, what was the theory behind that? And is this something practicable now? Because anyone who sees that title will say, oh, it's an amazing thing and everything, and it will also speak to the issue Mr. Akinshun raised now about Nigeria being able to earn from what we produce and beyond the oil. What was the theory behind that? And is that possibility still subsistent today, irrespective of all the challenges that we have on our hands?
I believe so. My recounting in that book is about all of the capital stock that we spend so much money on. Ajaokuta, refineries, fertilizer, aluminium. You find them all in that book in very great details. And I recount that when you have an economy where you actually invest a huge sums of money, billions of dollars, in capital stock, you call them capital stock, right? When you invest in capital, so you expect to see productivity gains. If you say, for example, you invest in fertilizer plants, you invest in all of this, you expect to see your agriculture transform into a modern industrial agriculture. But we see that they still remain the same. The same figures we've been quoting for 40, 50 years is the same figures we are still quoting. 70% smallholder farmers, this and this and this, they are all the same. So my point in that book was that we are stuck in a low equilibrium trap because even though we invested, these things are not working for us. Why? Most of them are moribund. And, I've said them in some previous interviews where you have billions of dollars in a place like Ajaokuta and it's not working. And Warri Refinery is not working. Kaduna Fertilizer, Ikoebuku, all of those, they are not working. So on paper, you have actually invested in capital stock, but they have gone to the ground. It's sunk into somewhere. So those are the things we need to interrogate ourselves and say, how can you as a nation put so much money in something that doesn't work for you? The second aspect of going from consumption, because the whole idea of investing in capital stock is to make us a productive nation. We produce, we sell, we earn foreign exchange, and we get both food security and all the other securities. But we haven't got there. We are still stuck in the low income equilibrium.
But
the second aspect.
But Professor, the issue now is that we are not producing. We're still consuming.
Alero, this is the point. We're not producing because, so for example, let me give a very simplistic example. You buy a fridge for your house, you buy a freezer, you buy a television, and then you just put them home and cover them up. That's precisely what we've done. You just cover them up. And then your children say, I want cold water. I want to watch television. I said, no, just leave. Or you go and buy them fake. This is what has happened to us, literally, actually. So all of those investments have gone to nothing due to things you and I know, they never were allowed to get to a point where they are operating. The second big dimension of going from consumption to production is we need to transit from being this smallholder, this small country thinking, having 70-80% people working on farms. Nobody does that anymore. I mean, those who have achieved high middle income and high income country. I'll give you an example. People are quoting this figure all the time. Oh, Nigeria has a 20-25% agricultural contribution to GDP. What does that mean? If you break it down, what does that really mean? You take a comparative country like Korea. Today, in 2022, the agriculture contribution to GDP is 2%. 2%. But they have transited to manufacturing and industry, which is contributing close to 33, 35%. So we are stuck again in what I can call a structural growth trap. We are not moving. We are having this narrative all the time that we are doing agriculture. We should do modern industrial agriculture. That's another place where we are stuck in a structural trap.
So, Professor,
we have to modernize agriculture. We have to free assets that we have that are not working and make sure that they work for the country.
So, Professor, after we have modernized our agriculture, where do we go from there when our climate is so unfriendly for industry? The few industries we had, international ones at least, have all moved out. How are we going to now invite new ones or bring back the old ones and start new ones with these agricultural products that you say that we must now mechanize?
So we are talking about reset, right? You and I are talking about us doing a reset, and I really believe in that. I don't ever give up on Nigeria. I don't ever give up and say, oh, it's too late. It's never too late. Countries are not like human beings. Nigeria is not going to die in the next 10, 15 years. So we have to reset. We have to show good faith. We have to change our ways. It's as simple as that. We have to show trust, not just to ourselves. You know, they said to your own self, be true first. And let people see that there's actually a reset. And you put it very well. We had all of this industry, even the private ones. I mentioned the public ones. We had the private ones, Michelin, Dunlop, all of them, Ferrudo. They were all manufacturing spare parts everywhere. Where have they gone to? So we have to fix power. We have to fix power, the power sector. Part of the reset has to be power sector. We have to fix it. Two, we have to show good faith.
Sore point, Professor. Sore point.
Yeah. So, if I didn't want to mention it, I know you go there. Yeah. So, and we have to show good faith to people who should invest. A country like ours, people should be running here to come and invest. And they are not doing so because of our bad faith.
Well, let me ask the senior advocate of Nigeria with us here about jurisprudence for businessmen. There are, those who look at some things and look at certain judgments that have come from whatever, and are wondering if it just so happens that for one reason or the other there is a breach of trust or contract, a contract goes belly up and all. What's the assurance that I have that I will get justice? Do we have the kind of environment for ease of doing business that can be easily justiciable so that no one, foreign investor that Alero is advocating, talking about now, will feel shortchanged as a result of our, judicial, environment?
You see, as you mentioned, when it comes to the laws around ease of doing business, I think this administration has tried in passing the laws and creating. But as I've always said, and I always seem to go back to this judicial issue we have, is that very simple. Economy cannot be divorced from the legal environment. No matter how much progress you want to make, as you have said, if you don't find justice for a breach of a contract, or it takes so long to get it, it becomes a disincentive. He mentioned the Ajaokuta and the large programs that would have gone a long way in helping our economy. These have all been embroiled in litigation by foreigners in Nigeria. We're doing foreigners fighting over control of Ikotabasi, control of Ajaokuta, and things like that. We find ourselves held back almost 40 years just because there's slow litigation and unending litigation on it. Panels would have been produced, cars could have been manufactured in Nigeria if those litigation were settled. Now, politics has taken most of judicial time as well. Many cases have been put on the back burner because political cases have to be resolved timelessly, and commercial cases have been held back. We have cases in the Supreme Court awaiting dates for hearing since 2010.
Wow.
We don't even have a hearing date. And these are cases that, there are cases that we've done in which the litigants have died while waiting for dates. At the end of it, what is the justice served? And until those issues are looked at quicker, how do we get the judiciary, how do we get cases resolved faster? Until we find that, we will still be wasting time.
Let me quickly
So
ask.
who should deal with that? The Bar Association or who?
Even the Bar Association, I dare say, in some of the issues are also complicit. We take cases to courts which should not be there. Unless the Bar Association takes more serious the case of discipline in erring lawyers. I have found, I was going to take a case on behalf of a client to Ireland. I called lawyer, the first barrister I called in Ireland, he said, I won't touch this case. It doesn't seem just, it doesn't seem what you're saying is making sense. So I had to first convince the lawyer and persuade him that, no, we have a good case. Before he looked at it, I said, okay, I understand this now, but anything that will soil my name as a lawyer, I'll be punished by my Bar Association. I won't do it. Wow. So the lawyer will not even take on a case where it seems his name is going to be messed up or is going to be disciplined.
Let me ask, Prof, about how serious such issues as litigation, for commercial cases are. What's the capacity of such situations to slow down or fast track some of these propositions that you're making, Prof? We can't hear you. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so we have to ask how did we, for example, the case of Ajay, how did we get to litigation? Because the process of building that plan was never concluded. And then subsequent governments will now try to do one thing or the other, which I see in the past as bad faith. That's the issue I'm talking about, bad faith. We have to show good faith. I don't want to go into details. But the point is that, how do you get yourself into this kind of litigation? A nation, you invest your own money, spend billions of dollars, and then suddenly you're having litigation with an outsider who didn't put a penny. So again, it has to do with our governance system that got us there. I was part of that team. I joined Ajakuta in 1979. We were sent to India and all of that. We came back. By 1982, that plan should have been concluded in terms of structures. But we never got there. So I think, again, the issue of, a low-income country like that, we really can't afford some of these things. And I see my colleague Blair was saying, things that shouldn't even go to court are going there. You get yourself entrapped into this is really, for me, shooting yourself in the foot to start with. So yeah, they've been part of the drama over the last couple, but that wasn't the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue was that the industrial process was mismanaged. How many private sector companies are in court arguing about if you invest your money? So I don't know, but I believe that we need a reset.
Well, it sounds a lot, Prof, that we have a long way to go. To be very honest with you, the conversation we've had so far is just preliminary, really, because there are so many things that we weren't even able to touch. The debt burden, the GDP, investors are waiting, what the body language of a government is saying, implementation of Aviation Act, inflation figures. We haven't touched any of those, and already, just as you said, pressing reset on the economy before looking at the very specifics. But for now, we have to terminate this conversation here, Prof. And thank you so much for your time and perspectives and hope. Because I know that the AFDB has been intervening a lot in at least Nigerian government, beside that of other African countries, to ensure that some things are done timeously and to the benefit of Nigerians. Thank you so much, Prof, for being a part of our conversation this morning. Professor Banji Ilaron-Oyinka is Senior Special Advisor on Industrialization to the President of the Africa Development Bank. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Alero.
Yes, sir. Before we let you go, Mr. Akinshun, what would be your passing shots to, especially for those who see that we have a challenge on our hands and we need to deal with it in order for the economy to reboot?
I think the incoming administration has its work cut out. How do I
unenvied?
And I don't envy them. I believe, one, security affects income on the oil sector. They have to find a way to deal with the theft. And it has been done mostly by even the people who are supposed to keep it. And you then wonder, how do you deal with that? The financial system obviously aids a lot of frauds. There's nobody who can be corrupt. There's no money that will be stolen if the banking system doesn't support it. So we know what to look at and to deal with them one at a time.
We have to, those conversations have to be had. Those conversations have to be had. And I really have no idea, Alero, how to begin it, but it's definitely not here. The issues have been raised. Dapo Akinshun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much for your time this morning. We truly appreciate your perspectives.
Thank you very much. I hope by the next time I see you, I'll be a doctor now, a real doctor, not a doctor.
Okay, I think I've succeeded in giving you a title. We're back after now to stay with us.
Thanks for calling Bastion HMO.
Thank you. Now that was my health insurance partner. Yeah, I was just as skeptical as you were about health insurance until I tried Bastion HMO. I got a healthcare plan that's right for me and my family. I have access to top quality healthcare services and facilities. We also get access to over 1,700 hospitals and clinics. Call 0800-BASTION, Bastion Health, the HMO that puts you in control.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser. Or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television. Ubiquitous.
Thanks for calling Bastion HMO.
Thank you. Now that was my health insurance partner. Yeah, I was just as skeptical as you were about health insurance until I tried Bastion HMO. I got a healthcare plan that's right for me and my family. I have access to top quality healthcare services and facilities. We also get access to over 1,700 hospitals and clinics. Call 0800-BASTION, Bastion Health, the HMO that puts you in control.
This is the time where you go call your brother, call your sister. This is the time where you go pick your phone and start to call your cleaner number to ask them how you day. You think say you wise, now make you say no be your business. You know nice. You say they wise. The way you treat a person, the little bit of good go change the world. How you there this morning? Go a long way. Oh, okay,
How does that sound like We Are the World all together again? I'm sorry.
We are the world. I'm talking about the world. The world was celebrating on Wednesday, and it was celebrating World Water Day. I suppose you'll be thinking, what is there to celebrate? billions of people in the world don't have clean water. So what is there to celebrate? Well, that's not for me to answer. We have guests who are going to answer that. But every day, millions of women and school-age children, please note, most of the time is women, who carry these things on their heads and travel sometimes miles to go look for water, which may even be of poor quality. There was a video making the rounds some time ago about a child drinking water from a stream. I wouldn't even call it a stream, I just call it a hole. And the water was mud. I can't even say muddy water. It was mud. And this child was drinking the water.
Channels Television went to, I'm not sure which northern state as well, and that's the exact picture that we took. So it wasn't just a fluke.
So there's been plenty of effort the world over to ensure that there's potable water for people, but I don't know how much result the world is getting from that effort. Well, we can find out from our panel this morning. We're joined by Adedayo Mac Adeyemi, Senior WASH Specialist. WASH meaning Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Specialist, as well as Organizational Development Expert. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And on this side is Engineer Sonny Elisha, Deputy Chief of Party and Service Strengthening Lead, USAID Nigeria, Lagos Urban Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, LUWASH. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Now let me just go straight to cut it to the chase. How much success is the world making in providing potable water for its populations?
Yeah. First, we would have to look at it from the direction of the challenge that the world is facing with respect to access to safely managed or potable water, like you would say. If there is any existential stress that the world is facing, when you talk about climate change, the most critical element that is hugely affected is the issue of access to water. So much has been said and so much is being done. And I would want to say that whenever we declare World Water Day, while we would look at it as a celebration of achievements, but also we're looking at it from a perspective of projecting the need for water usage, water consumption, and water management. So across the world, we see governments making efforts to get their people have water, but the efforts are far, far behind demand. In fact, the present thinking is that each of the governments have to do a little bit 4 or 5 times more than they're doing now.
Okay. Mr. Mac Adeyemi, governments are making efforts to provide water for their citizens. We are in Nigeria. How much effort is our government making? Considering that in Lagos State, I'm not sure that there are too many households who are supplied water by the state. More and more people are sinking their own boreholes, even though they don't really get potable water from those things.
There's been a lot of efforts that the government has made over the years. I recall in the past 20 years, we've spent billions of dollars, and a lot of this coming from development partners. There are 37 water corporations in Nigeria, that's including Abuja. They have staff. They spend an average of about 500 million on their operating expenses, pay salaries of these guys on a monthly basis.
Monthly?
Yes.
500 million?
No, 500 million yearly, an average. Just maybe 30, 40 million, depending on the number of staff. But you have 37 of them running. You have rural water agencies in all the states. Some of them have small town, and there may be 3 or 4 regulatory agencies. And then, of course, at the water resources level, at the federal ministry, you have several agencies. So when it comes to having the structure in place, when it comes to spending money on constant basis, the government have been doing that.
But how much water are they producing?
That's the question. That's the question that affects the entire country, not just even water. Value for money, do we get water to the people despite these efforts? So if we want to talk about why this is, we won't leave this place today.
So, Mr. Makademi, when I was growing up in Lagos as a little girl, there were public, they were not called taps, they were called pumps, because they were massive. And you could go there and do this and drink water.
I do that often.
Even in our schools, the taps had running water, and you could also do this. And we didn't, we only read about typhoid in the subject referred to in those days as hygiene. You didn't know what typhoid was because the water was potable water, clean, clear water, and nothing happened to you from drinking that water. But you wouldn't dare do that now. Just open a tap and do this. In fact, you open the tap, will the water come out?
The taps are not even there. Now it's a big challenge, and like I said, you probably want to talk about leadership, commitment, political will from political leaders. You want to talk about governance, even within the value chain. Of course, the issue of corruption also comes into play. You don't get value for money for investment and all that. We were in this country where we had people who commissioned water projects, and the overhead tank was actually loaded by a tanker from somewhere else. So the governor was there for photo ops, or the commissioner, whoever did it, was just for photo ops. They turned the tap, and the day after, the people did not get water. So we have this whole thing that has culminated to where we are today. But thanks...
my apologies. Should those water corporations still remain in existence? I mean, it sounds, simplistic when we say these things. But for instance, let me bring it to you, Engineer Elisha. So the United Nations Secretary General said that the goal of safely managed water and sanitation for every individual might not be achieved by 2030. That's him saying that. In our own country as well, the most we have heard from stakeholders like the Society of Engineers, Institution of Environmental Engineers, they continue to harp on the importance of potable water for the survival of individuals. Yet we have this infrastructure that Mr. Makademi says, they exist. What do you think could be the challenge or the inhibitions that they may be having that's making them not as effective as they should be?
Okay, I think Adedayo raised critical issues, for example. You are having utilities whose management is not being supported by those who appointed them. Supported in what sense? First, even basic operational funds. Now, you have 10, 20, 100, 300 staff, and you only release their salaries to them. What do you expect? So there is the issue of relatively high budgeting and poor releases. So there is no funds available to operate the systems. There is the issue of infrastructure that has been there from time if we're talking of Lagos, some has been there since 1910, the kind of a thing. 1950 seems to be the most recent, and then of much more recent 2013, where a few of the suburbs were accessed with water. So we have those challenges. Then we have little or no monitoring. There are no performance in the whole country. There is no performance-based contract between government and the utilities. So neither management is feeling incentivized to work, and neither the staff are incentivized to work. In fact, Amongst the water corporations, less than 10 are even having board of directors. So there are systems that are, to be fair to them, nearly amorphous. What do we expect out of such organizations when they are not being supported and when there is no accountability? Some of us have been moving for improved efficiency. Oftentimes people want to say more taps, more pipe network, more water treatment plants. But substantially speaking, that might not be the ready answer. The little that you have, how effective are you managing it? So SDG 6 will not be achieved, like the UN person is saying, as long as we are not projecting efficiencies in the system. We are not monitoring to improve those systems. We are not funding to keep those systems going. And some people used to say, whenever you do infrastructural development in water, you bury the pipes. And politicians really are interested in seeing things that are overhead, like overhead bridge, like
that can be seen.
That can be seen. So, Dr. So person as governor did this. But when it comes to water utility, you bury the pipes. And you put in $1 billion there, and you tell people, sees it. Nobody sees it, so they don't really want to commit to such an amount of money.
Oh, God.
And then the issue of the elephant in the room, energy.
Yeah.
If you go to water treatment plants, you would see that there are heavy-duty pumps that require so much of money, or so much electricity, rather, to power. And when you connect them to the grid, the what do you call it? The electricity rate will be huge. I know of one of the states, I don't know whether it's allowed to say here, they were paying over 100 million per month for their energy, yet it was not sufficient. Lagos at a certain time, they were paying over 200 million a month, yet it was not sufficient. So we need energy.
200 million naira to power water
when it was the IPP, when it was in the IPP, they were paying 200, 250 every month, right?
And Mr. Makadem, there's also the problem of Nigerians expecting water to be a social service, not to be paid for. How much does that add to this thing we're talking about, this equation?
No. I mean, it's demand-driven. People need water.
We all need water, but we don't want to pay for it.
But people are paying already. They're paying for the alternative. Now, think about it. You're a family of 6.
Borehole.
No, that even go to borrow. You're a family of 6.
Yeah.
And you take an average of 2 sachet water per person per day. That's 40 times 6. That's 240 naira per day. Look at it in 30 days. No utility will charge you that amount of money for using much more, you know? So the bottom line is the people are paying. It's just perception. If the utilities provide water and the government has political will to support the utilities so that the utilities can enforce their customer service code, you know, the user pay or I disconnect you or whatever. In urban areas, people will pay because they are already paying. Some are also paying for the cost of health, you know, and all that. So it's the ability to pay is there. We've not tested the willingness because the services are not there anymore. I was talking to Sonia, I said, in time past, when you're putting up this property, there's a likelihood that there's a line already. You just pay the utilities and you tap. But now the moment you buy your property, you're calling for somebody to come and sink borehole. So nobody's even expecting, nobody is looking forward to get that public service.
But don't you think it's because that pipe you're talking about most likely has no water flowing through it?
That's even if there's pipe there at all.
Yeah.
The issues are, I mean, the gap, there's a massive gap. But the way our communities are evolving, and when you look at the cost of the alternative, I can assure you, and based on a lot of studies we've done, people are willing to pay if they get the services. Albeit, even in the national policy, there's a consideration for rural areas, there's a consideration for semi-urban and urban. We don't expect full cost recovery from the rural area because of the level of economy, the economic activities and all that. But for people who are living in the urban area, we expect full cost recovery, and we know they can afford it, and if they get the services, they would pay for it.
The challenge, one of the challenges, Engineer Elisha, is that of communication. You said it the other time. Some government official came, possibly invited a superior officer to come and commission the project. And as soon as they are gone, that same day or the very next day, the just commissioned infrastructure is non-functional. Now, how do we persuade those people to invest, as you are proposing, or to even pay for services that they are not sure will be sustained?
Yeah, I think we should probably look at that from the point of accountability, right? First, these utility systems, their management, their board, through to government, are they accountable to the customers? Are the customers also asking questions? When last did customers go to a utility and were asking why is it that we are not having water? Somehow, the populace have accepted the failure of the system.
But do you blame them? I'm not saying it's the right thing, because just as Alero said the other time, you know, she hinted at civil servants. To a large extent, many of the people who are supposed to serve you through the civil service consider themselves to be lords. So superior to the system that they're not accountable to anyone. So how do we...
One of the efforts I did during a USAID project in Bauchi was to help midwife a memorandum of understanding between civil society organizations and the utility. What was it? That the utility would always give information to the civil society organizations.
Were they giving them water to start with?
Yes, no, there was a World Bank project, and they were producing, right? So first we were talking of communication, we needed the information first, because the normal civil servant will not give you the information.
Of course.
So what we did is to midwife a memorandum of understanding. Hey, CSO and media, please, whenever these people give you information, don't spin it against them. Just use it for what it is. Because when you spin it wrongly, when you represent what they told you wrongly, they lose trust and they would never give you
credibility.
So we undertook that and said, okay, you, Bauchi State Water Corporation, please always give UCSOs and media, always use it decently. And there's been some substantial progress. We believe that the CSOs, the CBOs, should come in strongly in terms of monitoring the performance of utilities. We also think, for example, that there should be town hall meetings by management to their customers. We also expect customer forums, and forums where you go and explain what is happening. If we don't have water, please tell us why. And hopefully in Lagos, in the next 1 year or so, we are going to have what is called a social contract. A social contract, which is a binding document between the community and the water utility. You say, this is much more than a customer care service charter. No, this is a social contract where the people are demanding and you are agreeing to offer these services for this time and at so rate, while the populace, the customers, are also undertaking to pay. Because one of the challenges that we're having in Nigeria is that people don't seem to pay their bills. In East Africa, the rate of paying of bill is about 60-75%. Down in South Africa, it's about 80-85%.
In Nigeria?
But in Nigeria, it's about 20-30%. I have managed utility before. During my time in Kaduna, it was one of the most successful times, but I could not achieve more than 30%. So people don't seem to want to pay their bills.
Water bills, you're talking
Yes,
about.
water bills, of course.
Yeah, but if you don't pay your bill, doesn't your water stop running?
Yeah, there is a challenge on how to disconnect water. While with the energy, you just need to press a button.
Yes.
Like we were saying, reset in the last session, you just press a button and you don't have, or get a ladder and just climb there. Most of the time, those of the water utility, they have to spend so much energy trying to dig through to the pipe. And the person in the house knows that you even don't know where the pipe is. That's on the grounds that there's no shenanigans of water theft, which is a critical thing in Lagos. For example, water theft where people will try to get a tap underneath their foundation.
I think you have successfully raised more issues
underneath their foundation, so that no human being other than they who constructed it would know. So the little tap at the front of the estate will be showing 5,000 naira, 2,000 naira, 5,000 every month, while in reality tanks, underground tanks, are being fed by the day. These are the challenges that the system.
I think we
but
need
a few years ago, Lagos State put water meters.
Exactly.
How are those doing?
Quickly. Not good because of a wrong mentality. First, the practitioners think that the water meter is against them. Secondly, the customers think that the water meter is against them. I, as an expert, I stand to say today that water meters help the two parties. One, it helps you as a customer to pay according to consumption.
Yes.
Two, it helps you as a service provider to manage, because the people inside the house manage the consumption. They don't want the meter to run out.
Exactly.
So they manage the consumption, therefore you're able to extend, the services are able to be extended to those who do not have.
Alero, we need to press reset on water too.
There are plenty of reset buttons we need to press today.
Yes.
Anyway.
So let's go for meter, no matter how expensive. Go ask them that you want your meter.
So prepaid meter for water.
So if I don't pay, my meter just shuts off. Full stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Happy Water Day, everybody. Mr. Engineer Sonny Elisha, Deputy Chief of Party and Service Strengthening Lead, USAID Nigeria, Lagos Urban Water Sanitation and Hygiene, LUWASH. And we also had Mr. Adedayo Mark Adeyemi, Senior WASH Specialist, Organizational Development Expert.
Thank you. I have an information for the government, for the political authorities, quickly. Now, we're running at a risk because everybody is digging boreholes, and most boreholes are close to septic tanks. So there's a tendency for what you call E. coli contamination for raw water. And everybody is throwing sachets around. We don't have the capacity to regulate quality. There's no substitute for public water supply.
Again.
And the authorities must know this because we are sitting on a time bomb.
Again, press reset.
Waterworks. That message was for you. Thank you very much for coming, sharing your insights with us this morning, and thank you for staying with us. Sunrise will be right back with the lifestyle segment.
I say, Mommy and daddy, ẹ sáré wá, tó bá wo iṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run láyé rẹ̀ o. Daddy and mom, brother and sister, ẹ sáré wá, mo ní tó bá wo iṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run láyé rẹ̀ o. Wá wá rí wípé Olúwa wá dára. Wá rí pé Olúwa dára. are mighty. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé, oh, you are mighty. Sorry, there is nothing you cannot do. Yes. Money, there's no mountain you cannot move. Talking about Jesus, there is nothing he cannot do. There is no mountain he cannot move. If he has said it, then he will do it. Only if he has said it, then he will do it. He has a track record of keeping his word. He's not about to stop doing it. Mo wá ní Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Say, ayé, Olúwa dára. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń wò mí nílé. Mo sọ wípé tó bá wo ṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run láyé rẹ̀. Mọ́mí àdàdì tẹ́ bá wọ̀wọ́ Ọlọ́run láyé rẹ̀. Wá wá rí pé Olúwa dára. Láti máa sọ pé Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Lórí Jésù, there is nothing he cannot do. There is no mountain he cannot move. There is no prayer he cannot answer. There is no problem he cannot solve. 'Cause he has said it. If he has said it, if he has said it, if he has said it, 'cause he has a track record of keeping his word. He's not about to stop doing. Oh yes, I will do Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Ògbéni níjà kẹ́rù oko níjà. Mo ní ṣe bí wọ́n tó kojú ọ̀run. Ṣé bí wọ́n tó kojú ọ̀run. Ọlọ́run àgbáyé. Ó yẹ sọ wípé Olúwa dára. Olúwa dára. Sorry if he has said it. If he has said it, money, he has a track record of keeping his word. He's not about to.
Okay, so that's music you're listening to. Most certainly, Many people enjoy music, right? But you see,
I have not seen anybody who doesn't enjoy some kind of music or the other.
it depends on what your definition of music is sometimes. It's not you anyway.
You want to define music?
No, I'm not the one to do. We have someone to define music for us here today. Please don't give me the problem that mommy and daddy
define music. Hey, define music.
Our guest this morning is going to talk about, because you know, the music you listen to affects your lifestyle. I mean, it's a fact that we've established here before, and it's also a reflection of your personality. It's you know, I asked the question the other time: why do some people listen to classical music and some just listen to traditional music? You know, like the Sayomare Joseph. What's that village musician from your village again? Anyway, don't answer that question. So,
from my village,
you know a person's likes and dislikes.
There's no musician in my village.
You know, we're also told science has also established that people who play music are smarter than others.
Oh.
So, how that is,
okay,
I will find out. There is a special connection between music and the activities of your brain.
Well, some of those classical musicians were actually deformed. But when it came to music, they were geniuses.
So musicians are said to be increase their chance to have better brain activities just by playing music. Please, let's have a conversation around
Remember we had somebody who said music was therapy.
Yes, and we have another person here who is a music therapist as well, Dr. Florence Nweke. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Music therapist.
Thank you for having me.
Well, they say there is no such classification as music therapy, but once you are in the whatever it is, please explain to us.
Okay, well, I'm going to start from the Paleolithic history where...
The what?
From the early Paleolithic era.
Okay, go on.
Where sounds were gotten from sculptures were made, and paintings also from carvings from bones, bottles, and all other materials. Drums were also beaten to make loud sounds. We also noticed that during that period, there were footage of children. It means there was a kind of movement which involved dance and other things. Those are different art forms. Music is one of the art forms. And music itself is not in isolation. It combines with other art forms to function effectively. Now, in music therapy, music was the first art form to be used therapeutically. In other words, it emanates or it hails from the word health to give us a kind of wellness. Before that time, we had other forms of therapy like psychotherapy, we have speech therapy, we have occupational therapy and all of that. But when music was used therapeutically, it was to give us a kind of illness from the word health. Health means, in the Old English, it's ale. Ale means it emanates from the word, the root wholeness, being whole, being ill and healthy, and so on and so forth. Now, when you talk about wholeness, it means you are in sound health, you are in sound mind. So, in daily use of the word soundness or sound mind, we use it daily, but we really don't know that we use the word music all our lives. Oh. We do not really have to be musicians or musical to use the word sound.
Health. That's
yes, sound health. From the word wholeness.
Wow.
From what you hear. We say, if I say I'm giving you a sound advice, in other words, I'm telling you music is involved. I'm in a relationship and I want to strike a chord. I'll say I'm striking a sympathetic chord so that both of us can communicate on the same wavelength. Hey. And then if I now say, okay, as a lawyer in complex society where we need to navigate through complexities of issues and ideas, I will say I want to hire a lawyer that can beat to time. In other words, you are saying this one, I don't want him to miss a beat. And then we are talking about leadership. We want to execute a kind of, we admire leaders that can orchestrate things orchestrate music. So we are not saying, oh, we want someone to say, this job, I need a job. And then you want to construct yourself, you strive for the job to construct your persona in a word like passing through, sound passing through. So you want soundness in all that you do. And music has been seen as a powerful tool in all of this. In the classical era where the Mozart effect, I think you were talking about earlier, that you said people that engaged in music, that listen to classical music are like how many times better. There was an experiment that was carried out. People that had listened to classical music, that were exposed to some level of classical playing or classical listening, they had 9 times higher IQ than those that were not involved in that experiment. And then for other fields like decorators, designers, those involved in landscaping and all that, those ones have spatial intelligence. But their spatial intelligence is boosted or can be more energetic in a way that can be increased more if they listen to music, classical music. Now, classical music, we are saying classical music because we got our learning or our roots from the classical perspective. There's no way we can divert that from our culture.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Classical music is boring.
Yes.
I mean, it's, yes. I mean, you want a 20-year-old or a 10-year-old to sit down and be listening to Beethoven?
You'd be surprised.
I'm not talking about your generation, please.
You'll be surprised.
We will get to that. We'll get to that. I'll talk about preferences.
Okay.
And that is a kind of initiated by our taste culture, which is dominated by our culture and then our tribe, where we come from and all of that. That's music taste. But I'll come to that. Classical music is boring, so to speak, because we are not in that climb.
We're not.
We are here. Now, we have gotten a lot of our arts musicians, art composers that got their teachings and their learning from those classical roots. And they're able to give us a piece of music that when it is performed to us, we get a lot of inspiration. That is that. But we also have different musical genres that are speaking to us that we are fascinated by, simply because they have elements that help us to, get what we want, get the vibes that we need. That is why we have different musical genres. So if we are saying that classical music is boring, we don't want to debate that because we can't take the fact that it has helped to improve. And people are using music as an alternative to healing, as an alternative to health.
No, all of that is established, Dr. Wike. But what I would love for us to have conversations around here today are those choices, those preferences that you spoke to. I mean, it's mind-blowing, for instance, that even in our normal day-to-day conversations, we've been putting music, sound mind. I didn't know that it had anything to do with orchestrate a meeting. I didn't know it had anything to do with music until now. But what are the things that inform those choices that people make?
Well, the ones who listen to music.
Yes, that the ones who listen to that. Certain people, it's only classical music they listen to, and they don't want any other. And he will listen to Akpala. Well, Akpala is Afro-classical.
Afro-classical. Okay, all right.
Okay, the choices of music that we made are based on musical preference, like I said, and it is centered around the social group, the individual, the gender, and then it could also be such a situational factor that we find ourselves in.
What kind of music do women normally listen to?
Yes, women, female. From some research that have been conducted, that women love playing music with lyrics that have love in them. Love, romance, soft music that they just want to, they want to just they want to feel well. And when they are inclined to listen to those music, perhaps they have their hearts shattered from maybe love, they had broken hearts, or they are experiencing a new vibe of love. It gives them the expectation of what they really want to listen to. We also have individuals, some people are going through a lot, solitude, they are depressed. And then the kind of music they listen to, from their own desire is to come out of that depression. A study, I read about a study where someone wanted to come out of depression and he was playing a kind of music, rock music. Instead of coming out of that depression, I think the situation was worse. Rock. In other words, that kind of music, hard rock, that kind of music is in opposite direction of what is supposed to be. There are so many music that when you listen to rock or rap, for instance, say the other parts that make people to be deviant, like children that are supposed to be obedient to their parents, when they are exposed to those kind of music, they become ardent, they become disobedient.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are supposed to do, be sober, to reflect on societal norms, pay credence to authorities around them, they tend to, deviate from those authorities. They tend to deviate from those laws, thereby creating offenses in the environment. Simply because they listen to a kind of music whose lyrics has been hyped in a way that it doesn't regard the culture and the norms that is in the society. So when all of this is done, the onions rest on the musicians that is bringing out all of this music.
So how do people select what to be? So it sounds to me like you're saying, Dr. Nweke, that there are certain times you listen to certain kinds of music.
Yeah.
And there are certain times you don't listen to those kinds of music. There are some. So long as it is music, they're dancing.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, so long as it has rhythm and it has groove, that's all they need. They are not paying attention to the lyrics per se, but you are saying now that it will have an impact on them, whether they know it or not. How does that work?
There are some music that the lyrics play a very big role to people when they listen to it. There are other lyrics where the music, where the lyrics is secondary, and you have music aesthetic elements in those music. That's inform a kind of dance, and people fast-paced dance. They are carried away by the sound that is produced by those music, and you see their actions as a result of that. And we see that in most actions of our young people, where they listen to those fast-paced listen, that incriminates whatever attitude. They want to do this, they want to be fast, they want to, they want to get it going and all of that.
So you're saying that could be the reason why they are impatient? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that could be the reason, because what they are consuming, the kind of music they are consuming, fast-paced, they just want to be rush, everything like that. Some of them, not all. So there are also some people who want to pick a kind of music because I've said about what they are going through, their mood, the kind of emotion they want to derive from the music. Sometimes it is not the lyrics. Sometimes it is just the appearance of the musician. That is why it is very important for every musician, like I said, I was going to say, the music beyond sound, music have an atmosphere. The atmosphere of music also talks about the appearance of the musician, the mannerisms, the audience that are also listening to it. So when your mannerism or the way you display the music that you want to perform is to portray a kind of lifestyle, it affects people psychologically. So when you now that is why you have to deal with those music with care, because you don't want to hamper people's psychological imaginations. Sometimes people want to get the best out of the music you give, but because they are looking at you, the picture you are portraying, that you are a performer, that you are the artist, and you are naked. People that ordinarily shouldn't think of something that is averse begin to think in that direction. You have affected them psychologically. Sometimes you also want to listen to our own kind of music. For example, the present situation we are in the country. We have listened to the realities of these things through songs. For example, Victor Olaiya sang a song, Ilule Kosowolode. Those are the kind of songs, they are realities. They are the things that we are going through. But we also have solace in some other songs telling us that, oh, which way Nigeria, no matter what it is, the land is green, the type of T.Y. Bello. And we are consoled by those music. We are consoled by those things. Now, when it comes to some other things, because of our values and our beliefs, some of us have religious inclination. We are inclined towards some beliefs. And we know that our solace or the kind of music we listen to is the praise and worship, is the one in the song. And we know that all of these are still music, praises. And when we talk about praise, we have seen the power of music in the Bible, right from the Bible history where David played the harp and Saul got healing. It also happened in 1970s or so, where in a Farinelli film, where a lady sang a high-pitched soprano, and the king got instant healing from depression, from mental illness, and from pains immediately. So some music that we also are used to around us here, in praises, we are prayed. In Nigeria, we always pray. There's virtually no service we attend that we don't pray for Nigeria. But in the light of this music we are discussing, we can actually go on for praise. Praise, when praises go up, blessings come down. So we are, okay.
I wanted to just ask, I mean, you've pretty much speeded everything for us now, but how do people choose, or would you recommend that people should select the kind of music that they listen to at certain specific times?
Okay, different music appeals to different sensibilities or sensations. You can decide to go on different musical genres. Like I said, we have several. We have the pop, we have our Nigerian traditional folk music, we have classical music, we have reggae music, we have rock, rap, reggae, all kinds, Fuji, and so on. So it depends on what you want. It depends on what is happening to you at that point in time. It depends on your personality.
Yeah, but you've also said now that it is possible for people to develop contrary characters or whatever manipulated by music, advertently or inadvertently.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking that question. Would you recommend that people will be very, very selective? Even if you don't like this song, so if you like music, this is the kind of music you should listen to help you to, you know, become a better person or something.
That's why I said it depends on the individual. You know your values, you know what you want out of it. But I will always recommend that a kind of music that does not edify, that does not speak to what values you hold dear to you, you should jettison them.
I'm wondering, Dr. Nweke, how your students in the class will will agree with you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. My students in the class sometimes will say, Ma, we want something that everybody wants to hear. I know that there are so many things people want to hear. And those are the things that actually brings money into the pocket, so to speak. So how are we going to, like, cut this divide? It's a divide.
That's your job.
But I am saying, I will only recommend that, this is you, because it's guided by personality, like I said. Some people are introverts. No matter what you do, you can't bring them out of their shell. Some are extroverts and all of that. So the kind of music, it's either you look at the elements, the lyrics, it's either you want to get your feeling from the reading, you want to get from you just love the quality, the timbre.
Nweke, you just said listen to the lyrics. Most of these songs that we listen to these days, the lyrics don't tell us much.
Yes, exactly.
We want to dance, and the music is danceable. You're not listening because most of the time the lyrics are rubbish anyway. So you want to listen.
That's why I said the rhythm.
Yeah,
you have a choice to pick.
That's right. You're enjoying it. You're not listening to what they're saying. You know.
An example of what you're saying is it's a song. I asked my daughter, what do you understand to be the meaning of the song? The title of the song is saying, I like the way you lie. And my daughter was singing the song with rapturous...
She was listening to the lyrics.
She knows the lyrics.
Okay.
And was
She enjoys the beats.
Along.
And it was a beautiful, yes, you're right, it was a beautifully produced song, Ray J and some other lady. And after that, I was like, she was singing it so innocently, so offhandishly. I said, pause.
Pause that.
Do you
reset?
Can you hear what you're saying?
She probably hadn't thought about it.
What did you just say now? I like the way you lie. That's true. That's what I just said. So this is live. Corroborating what she just said, that people just go with the music because, hey,
I like the rhythm. Full stop.
That is why the people who help the music come into the air should be
But you already said it yourself that it's commercial. And the hypnotic effect of music cannot be remonstrated.
Yeah. So we should still bring some sense of sanity into music.
So who will do that?
We. That's why we're saying it to everyone listening to us. The government, inclusive, if you are to sign anybody into producing anything, they should look at the content. Because we are what we consume. If a society should be sane and should remain sane, there should be a level of mentoring or a level of censorship in whatever is done. And then we should also be able, as parents, caution our children on the kind of music they listen to.
Or do we allow them to expose themselves to? But how do we achieve that? But when I was growing up, there were records, you know, the vinyls, and they were in 3 sizes. There's a 33 and a half inches. There's
LP.
There's a smaller one, then there's the smallest of them. You know, just one track. I mean, you can't go and carry your daddy's LP with that his master's voice
stylus.
You can't just go and carry it. Say you want to. The day I tried it, I know that what my eyes saw, and then we grew, you know, into cartridges and cassettes and all those things. But today,
it's everywhere.
With a smartphone, you can download just about any song.
Music.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it'll be good to. Okay, for instance, let me ask this more specifically. So, because what we are talking about is music fitting per age, music per age. So someone is in between age so and so. Is there a kind of music that they should listen to that will help them mentally, developmentally, and all those things? We know that older people, of course, naturally would love old school music, even though sometimes today, when the DJ is playing old school music, they say, play, I will reach till I die. Play, you know, more contemporary songs. Is there anything scientifically or, you know, that can help people guide their choices of songs?
Yeah, I know music taste is linked with maturation, like the age group. The elderly, for instance, will not find anything useful in the present kind of music that they listen to, some of them. The youths will find it very, very
surprised that when
resourceful.
the elderly go to party, that's the one they want to listen to.
They will dance to it. It depends. Some elderly, like age group, we have elderly.
Yeah.
You know, they know their kind of music.
70s and above and the rest of them. Okay.
But for the youth,
they want to listen to old school.
But
old school includes Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is not really their
kind of thing. Environment.
They should have outgrown it, shouldn't they?
Well, it depends. Because that can also help them mentally. It reminds them of their years.
Of their youth.
Yes.
And that is a good thing.
And that is a good thing for them to go.
That's true. I remember hosting a radio show once, and I invited one of our friends, Barrister Obani. So this has nothing to do with law. You just come in to select your own kind of music to play. And at the end of the program, he said, Ayo, you have elongated my life. Simply by remembering some of those. So how does that work really to help people?
It works. And that is a kind of music therapy in the making.
Okay.
Because before you administer a music therapy session, you must get the history or the background of the person, of your clients.
Okay.
So in getting that, you know the kind of music he's disposed to while growing up and all of that. So when you are able to get all of this and the person is in a tight situation where music just have to be the alternative therapy that is supposed to be applied, you just play a bit of that. That helps to the situation to improve in a way.
Memories are made of these.
Yes. Honestly, yes. So that helps. And then for the younger generation, it's their time. But like I said, it also starts from the school, the curriculum. We teach them, oh, this kind of music, we want an environment that is better than what we have. The kind of lyrics you compose, because we have different hierarchies in the department, music, composers, performers, teachers, virtuoso, conductors, and so on. The kind of music you are disposed to giving out to your people, it should go through stages. There should be so many people involved in making out this music come to the public. They should liaise with psychologists, music psychologists. They should liaise with people that are also linguists, that are able to help them channel all of this music. You don't need to give us those languages that are vulgar for us to understand that you are singing music. It may not sell, but it is what we need to have a better environment. It may not attract some class of people. It may not attract some environment. It may not attract all. But for the few that it will attract, at least if we have them, it is better for us as a people, as a nation. So there should be a kind of, well, going back to the curriculum, to the school. How much of music do we even have in the schools? How many schools teach music? How many public schools? To what level? From GS1 to GS3, they do music, but do they really do the whole of that music? Some people do music maybe as elective in SS classes. In primary schools, we also have music, but is it all primary schools? Private schools, I know they invest so much in music. Some public may not really do so much because we have the creative and cultural arts curriculum combined together.
One second, when you say music, in some schools, music means singing.
Dance. Cultural display. End
That's
of the
what
year
it is.
party.
So it's not like you're going to go and listen to music and learn how to make music.
So
you are singing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So when all of this, when we are able to channel a curriculum that covers the entirety of music, which you can't even finish in a moment, when you're able to cover all of that, like, oh, if you are involved in music, if you do this, your intelligence quotient will improve. Your ability to learn, to speak other languages will improve. Your ability to communicate, you are an English speaker, but because you are singing in French, you learn that through music. You are able to do that.
Let me ask you a strange one. Okay. We've been told by other people who have come on this program that even growing babies in the stomach react to music.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of music should you play when you're pregnant? Should you play to your baby or to your
fetus? Any kind of music you like. You can decide to play any kind of music, and the child will be attuned to that music, because each time you play the music, you always see the bumping of the baby in your tummy.
Exactly, it's like he's dancing inside you.
And when the child is born, that same music, if you play it, the child turns the head to listen to what is playing. That is why most of the time when mothers are breastfeeding their babies and the song they sing when breastfeeding, or their sound, the vocal sound they sing to the baby while breastfeeding, the research has it that it makes the child develop as much as the breast milk the child is taking. So these are things that we really do not look into them like that as if they are a big deal. but they help development and
They
they
are
help to change
a big deal
the
in
world.
the end.
Because at the end of the day, we want to have a better environment. We want to have well-being to be improved. We were striving towards a goal, and the goal is to have a sound health.
Well, madam, I think it's like you have just given us a lecture now. Literally, what's the word now? Literally unearthing so many things for us. Now, if you're a nursing mother, now you know what to do. That doesn't mean you should just go and get that song that the only thing you hear in that song is banana. Dr. Florence Nweke, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I truly appreciate your time. I'm sure that we're going to drag you down another time. All right, you know we're talking about music. Let's see how much of it we can take after this break. Stay with us.
Everybody say, Obanio, Obanio, Obanio. Monti sanu sinu ibeku eshebi. Safoni koji iku ati gbagbe. Àti rò mí pin pé kò sí ìrètí fún mi mọ́. Torí mo jẹ̀bi gbogbo ẹ̀sùn tá a kàn mọ́. Everybody sing along pé ó ti sọnù sínú ìgbèkùn ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ mi. Ṣàfonífojì ikú àti ìgbàgbé mi. Àti rò mí pin pé kò sí ìrètí fún mi mọ́. Torí mo jẹ̀bi gbogbo ẹ̀sùn tá a kàn mọ́ mi. Ṣùgbọ́n ilé mi jẹ́ gbọ́dọ̀ mi ní láti gbé mo ti ra Jésù. Àti lẹ́mi gbọ́dọ̀ àti sọ gbèsè mi ní ìgbà. Ó yọ sọ pé Jesus is the victory. Sing hallelujah. Praise the one who sets me free.
Okay, now, so who is the artist? Because I saw so many people.
Well, we've been told that there's a bad accident on the highway, so our artist cannot get here. He's been on the way here for the past 2 hours or so, but he's still not here, so we're going to engage him in his car.
Or wherever he is right now. Okay, I think he eventually go home. He eventually goes somewhere.
Oh, okay.
That's comfortable, so.
Oh, okay, all right. You know him as Emma, oh my God. What's her name? But his real name is Emmanuel Edunjobi, and he's a young man from Ogun State who actually studied what they call Ilek. You know what that is?
Good morning, sir.
Well done, sir. It's well.
When you are coming to our studio, you leave home 4 hours before, because anything can happen on the expressway.
Yeah. You should have told me I should have even booked a flight, actually.
Okay. Well, because we don't have much time for this conversation, and I know that we're going to have to bring you at another time to have this conversation, and we've wanted to have this conversation for a long time. We'll come to Obali Jesu, but you have traversed 3 different careers, so to speak, within the past how many years? You've been a comedian, you've been an actor, now you are into music fully, or exactly, tell us the journey.
So basically, originally, music was always the first love, like I grew up playing musical instruments and all that stuff. And I started actually with music. It did not just blow, you get, because back then I used to work in a radio station. I was a producer, so I had to try to put on my stuff. But on the side, all these things have always been part of me, for example, the comedy. That started with, my mom. I grew up with a single mom, and, she used to go through tough times, and I was not the guy of soothing words back then. So as opposed to trying to say, I want me to be better, I'll just try and make her laugh, just create, So that was how that started. Then acting, once you do stand-up, you should always be able to act. So I think it's from my stand-up comedy and my online skits and stuff. That was how I got my first acting gig. I think that was a wedding party back then and everything. But basically, music has always been the first love. Even my comedy side, you realize that it was majorly music comedy, So the only thing I would say changed was I wasn't always going to, I've always been a church boy, but I wasn't always on the quote and unquote the spiritual side, you get. So that's the side of me I got to discover as I went into the music journey more, and it was more or less like discovering purpose and getting connected to what I believe, God wants me to do and all that, So yeah.
Well, so why did you go and study engineering then?
Let me tell you the truth. When I was, so first of all, when I was, don't let me say was, I am a very bright guy. Because if I say I was a bright guy, it will come be like, say, I don't turn Olodo. I was, like in school, I was just club president, all that stuff. I used to go for that. I don't know if I can mention the brand, but that mathematics competition they did, I was the one that represented my school. So I was like that. So when it was time to go to university, I tried some other universities, and for some reasons, public universities, for some reasons, some things chased me away because me, I'm a soft guy. When people see me, they assume a lot of things because I'm tall, but I know gets me, let me. So it now came to the point that they were going to take me. I went to Colonial University. So when my mom was, because she tried, it wasn't easy that time when they were trying to get me there. Meanwhile, all the while, I wanted to study. I was looking for the course that had the least number of years and that seemed easiest. I just wanted to go to university so that I was in Paris school. I just wanted to go to uni. So basically, down there, I knew I wanted to do music. So at that time, I thought the course for me to do was going to be computer science, because when I checked, you have 4 years and killing computer. Apparently that's in tough. But when I was going to choose that, my brother-in-law told my mom that you are paying this large amount of money. Let's get do engineering now, because he was an engineer himself. So according to him, it made more sense to just engineering. So that was how I found myself. It wasn't easy though. But
okay, we're going to have a more elaborate conversation with you, some other time, hopefully very soon. But talk to us about this. This trending song of yours. I know that you have this annual Faji Friday concert that you do and all of that. When did that start? And then all of a sudden, we now see that you don't even need to produce a music video for this song because the video has been produced for you already. So tell us about, that song.
Yeah. So there's actually even a music video for this. Not exactly a music video. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. So this is just the fans video we put out some days ago. If you check my YouTube channel, Obani Jesu Live, you will see the live performance, which it's not still the original video. So this came about. Can it be brought out a bit because I'm using my earphone, so it's distracting me. So this came about last year Easter. This is not even Faji. This was, I called it exclusive Faji. So it was a show that I did last year Easter, and I made it free to attend. So I funded it myself and all that stuff. And we had a big plan, because, we paid for like about 8 professional cameras. I just really wanted a good concert and all that and everything. And it didn't come out as we expected. For example, our videographer was robbed. So we didn't even, the video. So if you see the live video where we were singing, you realize that was just the instrumentalists that were being shown, because that was just a camera angle. That was the only shot we could get. So I was so discouraged. And I had the audio because we record our audio in multi-track. I'm a producer, sound engineer and all that stuff. So I had the audio, I mixed it and I liked it, but I was so discouraged. I didn't want to put it out. But eventually I just put it out with that video that I didn't like. So I just put it out there and forgot about it, so. And meanwhile, this song originally, I sang this song in 2019. It was my first collab then so the chorus is not mine, it's from one international person. Then I wrote the song around it. So I'd forgotten about this song, and my energy was on other things, trying to blow other things. And from nowhere, this one just really, really started trending. And, so I'm somebody that understands trend, because that's even how I came about. My first ever video that trended on Instagram was that you can lie. That the video thing I did back then. Please, somebody delete that video on the internet. My daughter must not see that video. So, so that was how I started. But this one, even with my experience and quote and unquote expertise, I can categorically tell you that I have no hand in this, And it just really connected to it. Because even the trends, when you see the video, you see deep connections. You see that I don't even know how to explain it, but one thing certainly is the fact that I just believe it was just God that was just trying to let me know that, guy, it's not by your power, not by your mind, so it's not by what you think, I do what I do when I want to do what I want to do. Because this is the biggest trend on any of my productions I've had. And it's the ripple effect I started pouring on my other songs because the numbers are going up left, right, and center. And people are sending me, messages and saying things that are beyond my understanding, quote and unquote testimonies. I always like to say, I'm not pastor, I'm not, you understand, but people are saying healings and all those kind of things. And I just know that it's something that God just wanted to proclaim in his name and just let me and everybody else know that, yeah, truly he's king and he does what he wants to do at his own time, So I would just want to give all that glory to God if you guys will allow me, So it's not it was our recording, but outside that I have no hand in it, and I just thank God because it has even my brand. A lot of things are going on now that you guys will see eventually. But majorly, one thing I would like to say about it is I just feel that move that we should follow the revival, quote and unquote, as it's coming. So I'm going to now have the Obani Jesu concert on Easter Sunday, which is going to also be free this time around. Also, just for everybody to gather and just proclaim that Jesus Christ is King, So yeah.
Well, it's very interesting that you put it this way. Sincerely, I really wish you had more time, if not for that horrible traffic that you have been lost in. And I'm almost certain that...
no traffic.
But don't worry, Ima. We sincerely, we really have to go now. Otherwise, we'd have just said, maybe one of those days, bring you back here so we can have a fuller conversation and give guidance. But I've been reliably informed that we shall be at your concert, so that at least let's have some fun and know that indeed, because it's a huge thing. I mean, I saw that video. I'm like. Did the man send the word around that everybody should just do this thing and then they send and collaborate?
You saw that Oyibo that was also singing. There was an Oyibo there that was singing.
Yeah, I saw. No, that Oyibo, that guy, he does it all the time. Any Nigerian music, he will just go and pick it. That guy, he just go and pick it, I mean, it's really very interesting. And sincerely, I really wish we had more time with you this morning. Oh my God, but.
So next time, just book a hotel for me to come and lodge the night before. So that
well, it is something. It's something. If it is something, it's something that we have to think about and really bring you on because it's wonderful to celebrate such things with you. And that time you need to leave home by 8 o'clock so you can get here on time.
No, if I'm in the hotel besides the.
Yes, I mean that's. Thank you very much. Because of you, I'm going to look around because.
No, it's not that deep. It's not that deep.
Emmanuel.
If I knew about the traffic. If I left, like she said, 8 o'clock, the traffic is and I don't like traffic. I don't.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Ben.
And good luck at your concert.
Amen.
Easter is in 2 weeks, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay then. Take care, Emma. Emmanuel Edwin, otherwise known as Emma. Oh my God. We didn't even get to ask him why Emma. Oh my God. But we'll ask him that next time. Certainly. Next time we see him.
He was lost in traffic. Now he's been found.
And you at home, thank you very much for spending your Saturday morning with us on Sunrise. I'm Alero Idu, wishing you all the best and see you next week.
Don't forget, it's important for us to keep the peace and keep ourselves one, and know that there is only one nation that we have. Do that with the next person you meet. Amaya Makinde, have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Bye.
up on Metrofile this week, we have the second edition of the International Women's Day Award Gala in Lagos, put together by female foreign ambassadors to Nigeria, the European Union, the UN Women, and of course, the UNDP.